Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. The JAMODI podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products. Golly, you just won a national championship, so I don't know how to ask this, but like what's one thing? Or I had to talk with Kevin Eastman, and I asked him a one thing question. He didn't get mad at me, but he did say, like, I don't like one thing questions. And I was like, I apologize. What are some things that make your program different?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, and Kevin's a friend of mine. He might get a little upset. I'm going to give you one thing. Practice. 44 years of coaching starting this year. And Kim Mulkey designed practices are absolutely the best thing I've been around. And Kevin could attest to that. You know, we brought Kevin in. Our team read Kevin's book last summer, Why the Best Are the Best. And we went ahead and we brought Kevin in, and he talked to our team and stuck around and watched practice. And you know, one of the things he talked about, he said, I could tell when watching you guys practice, you're going to be good. Now, to Kevin's point, there's a lot of things involved and having a good practice.
Yeah.
But, you know, Bob Knight said the structure and execution of your practice is the singularly most important item to your team's success. And I believe in that. Now, there's a lot of different ways to practice. I know John Wooden used to work on offense one day and defense the next day. Gary Blair would work on offense the first 2 hours of practice and defense the last hour. Here we mix it up, a little offense, a little bit of defense. So I just named you, three great coaches, but some things that I think that are important in practice. Number one is that you're working on things that matter. Too often, coaches want to run a drill because they like the drill. They saw this coach do this drill at a clinic, man, and it's a good drill. It's a good look, but it doesn't fit what we do. A great Don Meyer thing I actually posted today. It's Meyer Monday. Be a skill coach, not a drill coach. Simplicity. I remember one time being at Coach Meyer's house in the summer. I used to stay with him in the summer. And we were up on the third floor in his den. And he had this big notebook, and he was going through there, and he was marking on every now and then he'd take a page out. And finally I said, Coach, I'm just curious, what are you doing? He says, I'm removing some drills and some plays from our playbook and our drill book that we don't need to use next year. How many coaches do that? We're always looking for something new to add. How many of us peel the layers back and eliminate things that we don't need? So I think it was Pete Carril said, be good at the things that you have to do a lot. So, for instance, for us, Kim is huge in a post game, and I'm a big believer in that. I don't care how the game's evolved; you still win the ball game in the paint. So we have a post feed series drill it's outstanding, and there's a lot of variables to it. How we defend the post every day, how we defend the perimeter every day, all those kind of things. But every day we practiced 101 times last year. 101 times we did this drill. People want to know why we were so good at getting the ball inside. Boom. Our shooting drills are related to shots that they get within our offense. Our defensive drills are based around how we want to play. We probably do more. No, not probably. We do more shooting than any program I've ever been around. Almost every program I've been around, I've worked for some great coaches. We always say, man, I wish we could have got some more shooting in.
Yeah.
Here we get shooting in. The flow of practice is intense. There's no water breaks. We have water set up on both ends. When you're out of a drill, you want to go grab a drink, that's fine. But we're not stopping and giving you a blow. So, but from drill to drill, you're sprinting. I mean, it's nonstop. There's a little bit of chaos involved, which I think is very important. Krzyzewski was big in that. creating chaos with the structure of your practice because games are chaotic. Like I said earlier, her verbiage, the things she says when she says them, they're priceless. I mean, I've been in it long enough to where I just marvel at it. Now I'll tell her. I said, I don't know if anybody else picked on, but I know exactly what you were doing when you said what you said to LaDasia today. That was beautiful. And
Coach,
like
how much of that is talent, just her ability? How much of that is the craft and how long she's been doing it at a high level?
is a great question, and I think it's both.
Yeah.
Remember first that Kim used to be a point guard.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
she's got that point guard instinct. She also played for and worked for Leon Barmore. So she's been around the best. So I can tell you some of it just comes from naturally being around it, but I also know from being in staff meetings, go over to practice. And she says, at some point, I got to make sure I get this point across to my team today. I hope they give me a window.
Oh,
He's just not going to force it. It's something's got to happen where she can flow into it. And if it doesn't happen, she'll jot it down and work for it the next day. So when you talk about being prepared for practice, not just about the drills and what you're teaching, but what are you saying to your team today? I think I told you earlier, she's the master of knowing when to stay with the drill and when to get out of it. Guy, we had I'll tell you two stories. It's February and it's a grind. It's the SEC. Holy crap! We played a road game the night before and we getting ready to come to practice, and the kids come out. She says, "Come on." We roll outside. There's a bus. We take them to get some ice cream. Day over.
she just felt it.
Just felt it. Next day we're going to come back. We'll do we'll do game prep tomorrow, and then we'll play the next day. Now, let's go to the other end of the spectrum. We're in the NCAA tournament. First round, we play Hawaii. Play pretty good, not as good as we could. We're coming off SEC tournament loss. Again, the grind, it's March, so you have 1 day prep. So you play Hawaii on Thursday. You got Friday to prep, and then you got to play a really good Michigan team on Saturday. Kids come in, she hears a couple of them on the side talking about my legs are heavy, my legs are tired. And so we go through a few things there that we do early in our pre-practice, and you can tell their energy's not there. She goes ballistic. Legs are tired? That's fine. Guess what? We're done today. You can take the day off. Get out of here, rest your legs. We'll let Michigan handle us, and you have the rest of the spring off for your legs. So, and you know what players do, Coach? We're sorry. No. You came in here with the wrong mindset. You cannot flip that switch on. We're in March Madness. You're not ready to play. Get out of my gym. She went and told the manager to turn the lights out. So the kids leave. Now, what she did was she gave them the day off, but got their attention at the same time. So the next day is game day against Michigan. And she tells me, she says, first part of walkthrough, I want you to go over their inbounds plays. We've got to get that in. But when you're done, I'm going to toss them again. So I come out, I go over their inbounds plays, how we want to defend them. She said, you guys just don't get it. You don't know where you're at. You don't understand that one bad quarter and it's over. Get out. They say, Coach, we're not leaving. So she says, okay, my coaches, let's go. We leave. We walk up the ramp. We go into our little coach's locker room where we have a camera and we watch those players run a perfect game day practice. They went through their drills, snappy, crisp. They went over the scout with themselves, and we come out and we beat a really good Michigan team by 20. Now, ice cream one day, toss them out the next day. You have to know your team and where you're at.
I would imagine, too, the reason they were able to do that walkthrough at such a high level, that started back at, you said 101 practices. Yeah. Those standards started back at the beginning.
Sure. Yeah, that's our culture. That's our standard. And we do have standards at practice. People want to know how we play the way that we play. A big part of our culture is the intensity and execution that we demand at practice, that they demand of themselves. We've had players that, and Kim will do it, we have a player called timeout in practice. She's not happy. She'll bring her teammates together and say, guys, we're about 2 minutes from coach going off on us. We need to clean up A, B, and C. So that, practice is a separator for us. I really think our greatness comes about the way we practice, how we practice. That starts with Kim, but then the kids buy in.
I got a couple questions, if you don't mind, about practice and your ideas behind it. I think one thing, like, I love that you said most coaches say they want more shooting. I think a lot of coaches also say they wish they had scrimmaged more. They wish they had practice situations more. How much of it is parts that you're putting together, individual post feed drills? How much of it is 4-on-4, 5-on-5 situations?
I would say early on, it's about 50-50. Later in the season, it's probably 33 breakdown, 67 home method. Something I've never been around is when practice starts in the first 2 months. We break down and teach a lot. On Saturday, we come in, we go through some shooting, our post feed series, and then we're scrimmaging with referees and clocks. She wants to let them play. She wants to let them play. They love it. They know Saturday's not going to be this long 3-hour deal. We're going to be in and out there about an hour and a half, but we're going to play. We got clocks, situations, and and like I said, we get a lot out of it, and the kids enjoy it every Saturday. Now, when the games start, obviously that changes.
Sure.
But I do think it's important. This is a Bob Knight thing. Bob Knight said there's 3 parts of basketball: offense, defense, and conversion. And I think too many times when coaches are working on their offense and defense, they stay on one end of the floor. The most important part of conversion is the mental part. And you just can't tell kids get back. They've got it. So even if you want to spend all your time on offense, so say you're working on 5-on-5 offense, the ball's missed, convert to the other end. As soon as the ball crosses half court, stop, reset, run your offense. That's going to take about maybe 5 more seconds. But that conversion part is a big part of it.
Playing one possession, stopping and walking back.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how many points are given up throughout a season because of those habits that are being created.
And players want to convert a little bit. Trying to get kids involved in practice.
Yeah. How often? So you have that scrimmage time, and then you talked about the 33%. At what point in the year do you stop going, kind of bone on bone, or do you continue to compete live against each other throughout? Because there's that whole idea of, I would love to block out a little bit better, but I also would rather have them healthy, in conference time. What's that look like for you?
Well, it's a little bit of a feel. It's where you're at in the season, where your kids are, who you're playing. On the women's side, we're fortunate that we have a male scrimmage team. So, we've done this before. It's late in the year, and our starters will come in and get 1 or 2 reps in, 5-on-5, running a little bit of offense or guarding something. Then we'll bring our second group in and let them go 7 or 8 times because they need some reps too at some point in the season. So we're getting our reps to stay sharp, but we're not killing them either. But there's been times where Kim had a blockout drill in and we got in practice February. She goes, tell you what, I don't think it's a good idea for us to do this war drill today. And so again, just because you write it down or type it out, it's not a contract. You get in there, we're banging hard, early when I was at LSU and working for Coach Gunner, we were playing against Pat Summitt, Tennessee. Those were the most amazing practices I've ever been a part of. It was Tennessee. Your kids were juiced up. Those practices always had to be cut short.
Yeah.
We thought we were going to kill each other. They were going so hard. So you got to have a feel.
You've mentioned Bobby Knight's name a few times. He was at Texas Tech when I was at Baylor. One of the few claims to fame is my senior year. It'd been such a hard year, and we'd been able to play against each other a few times. He would shake the head coach's hand, but then go right in. He wouldn't go through the player line. And I thought, my last time we're in Lubbock, they just beat us, even though we were up 4 at half, which we shouldn't have been, but with 6 players. But he shakes hands. I see him going, and I just take off on the line, and I meet him at half court. Shook his hand. He put his arm around me, said some really kind things. And we lost the game, but that was just one of those moments for me. Because I think as a player, I played for Dave Bliss, who was his first assistant. It was basically a version of Bobby Knight, maybe a little bit better out in front of people at that time. And so you've mentioned his name. We've been talking process-based a lot. how do you feel like he was in that arena? Was he outcome based or
Oh,
process based?
I think he was definitely process based, and
Okay.
I think some of the indicators that we're watching his teams play, and his team's up 30, and he's still pissed off at somebody because they didn't execute. Because
Yeah.
it's not about the score with him. It's about. I mean, that was a guy that was gosh, constantly looking for the perfect game.
Mm.
Probably more so than anybody that's been in the business. Coach Knight was in Indiana while I was growing up in West Virginia, so was a big Indiana fan. And I'll tell you a quick story because I think it's I always tell the story when I speak. It's the most important lesson I've ever learned as a coach. My junior high coach at the time, Alan Osborne, was a Bob Knight guy. I mean, played man to man, ran motion offense. We had candy stripe warm up pants just like the Hoosiers. And when I got into coaching, Alan and I and Jim Boone went with the some. We would go to Bloomington, usually get out there on a Friday and watch Friday, Saturday, and Sunday practice and come back. And those practices were life changing. I mean, he was just a master practice coach. They would come out. First of all, you walk in there and they had like 7 or 8 managers with white T-shirts, red shorts, Hoosier basketball. They have a ball here, a towel over here, spread out. They had 3 managers up in the bleachers keeping stats, 1 filming. They'd come out pre-practice, post on one end, perimeter one end. He would come out the corner, whistle. They would go downstairs in the locker room, and go over the emphasis of the day. Then they would come out and practice. It'd be part method, whole method, part method, whole method. And we talk about verbiage. I've never seen a coach that could stop practice and get his point across in fewer words than Knight. I've been around some who would have to stop and almost give a dissertation to get to the point. Knight could get there immediately. And I just remember always driving back thinking that all young coaches should have to come to Bloomington, watch Knight, and learn how to practice. This one particular year, matter of fact, Jim was with us, and practice in Indiana had been canceled on Sunday. So on the way back to West Virginia, we stopped at Louisville and watched Diddy Crum practice. One manager had blue jeans on and a heavy metal sweatshirt, sitting up on the scoreboard. One of the assistant coaches was in the corner smoking a cigar. They came out and they did about 10 minutes of two-line layups, and then they scrimmaged. And 10 days later, Louisville went to Bloomington and beat Indiana by 18 points. And the lesson I learned there is there's a lot of different ways to coach. Now, went back and watched Denny Crum practice several times. That wasn't a normal practice, but his practices were never like Knight's. Knight's was intense. Denny's was more laid back. But you got Knight, man-to-man, no switching. We don't press. We run motion. Louisville, switching everything, running UCLA high post, 2-2-1 press. Completely different guys, different programs, both of them Hall of Famers, both of them multiple championships. And I love to tell that story because when I'm speaking to you, but this is not the only way to do it.
Yeah.
This is the way I've been around that works for me, but there's a lot of different ways to succeed.
I think the nugget or the takeaway for me is to be yourself. Be yourself, know who you are, but also strive for excellence. Because even in that laid back style, I'm pretty sure you were able to see there was some excellence that was happening.
No question.
The trying to be our very, very best and to do it the best we can. But I think that's reassuring for me because, man, I as someone who loves the game and wants to get better and better at it, that fear that the kids feel or not fear, but the comparing game. Comparison is the thief of all joy. I feel that at times when I hear about other coaches and I hear what they do, and I'm thinking, man, I don't know if I'm do that or I'm that good or if I'm looking into it the same way. But then you have to be yourself, not try to be somebody else, but be careful of slippage and laziness coming in and trying to pursue excellence still.
Yeah, learn from the best, but always be yourself.
You've mentioned a few guys that unfortunately can't go watch their practices anymore. What are some people now that you would say, like, Coach, this is one that you got to go see while you can?
Jim Boone. Jim Boone is one of the absolute best practice coaches I've ever been around.
Mm.
And by while I'm thinking about it, it doesn't have to be a big time BCS coach.
Right.
There's some high school coaches I would go watch. Some of the small college, the mid majors. Tom Izzo would be right up at the list. Bennett at Virginia would be at the list. Gino at UConn.
What about some smaller coaches, like you said, that maybe some names that not everybody would know?
Well, one guy you mentioned earlier that I think is just an excellent teacher is Doug Novak.
Yep.
And he's a very detailed guy. He's also a guy who he runs a great practice. He has a great understanding of concepts, both offense and defense. And I think watching small college guys, because they especially if you're a high school coach, because small college, I'm telling we got a 10-man staff here at LSU. I just went down and saw Jim. He's got 25 players and 2 assistant coaches, and he's not worried at all. I mean, he's organized. He knows how he's going to break it down and work with it and all that. But I think sometimes, and the other thing, don't just, if you're on the men's side, there's great women's coaches out there, and vice versa. Go out and watch a football practice sometime. Watch the organization, attention to detail. I talked to you earlier about West Virginia State College and being in the van with Cal Bailey after a baseball game and talking about everything from team development to discipline to communication with players. There's just a lot of people out there you can learn from.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.